Welcome back to our Summer in Maine series. After exploring Portland, we took the RV up the coast and settled in for 2 weeks on Mount Desert Island, home to Acadia National Park and Bar Harbor.
Acadia is one of the most visited national parks in the US, and it's easy to see why. It's got everything: rugged coastline, epic mountain views, pristine lakes, and some of the best hiking in the Northeast. It's also the only national park in all of New England.
While we were here, we had a constant rotation of visitors. Our friends from DC joined us for the first week, and Derek's parents came up for a long weekend. That meant we got to explore Acadia in a whole new way, with friends and family.
From iconic hikes like the Beehive and the Bubbles, to hidden gems on the quieter Schoodic Peninsula, we covered a ton of ground, and we're taking you along for the ride.
Let's get started with one of Acadia's most famous hikes, the Beehive.
Good morning. We're in Acadia, hiking up to the Beehive.
A quick heads up, the Beehive Trail is known for its near vertical climbs assisted by iron rungs and narrow ledges. It's pretty cool. Our truck's down there.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, this breeze. Oh yeah, see, told you.
Feels great.
It's not recommended for those with the fear of heights or in wet conditions. Always check trail conditions before setting out. Here goes Matt and Donnie. They have joined us this trip. The Beehive isn't Acadia's only iron rung trail. The Precipice Trail offers a more challenging ascent up Champlain Mountain, but it was closed during our visit due to peregrine falcon nesting.
These rungs make it very easy.
It does.
As we navigate the trail, you'll notice blue slashes painted on the rocks. These are trail markers, guiding hikers across Maine's rocky terrains. They help keep you on track, especially when the path isn't clearly defined.
What's this pond called?
I think it's the Bowl.
It's very pretty.
One of the great things about hiking in Acadia is that many trails connect, so it's easy to combine routes and create your own adventure. After Beehive, we continued onto Gorham Mountain, which made for a perfect loop back toward the trailhead.
While Beehive is all about the climb, Gorham gives you that classic Acadia scenery: rolling forest, dramatic cliffs, and the ocean in the distance.
To complete the loop, we had to walk back along Park Loop Road. Not the most scenic part of the hike, but after climbing 2 mountains, we didn't mind an easier stretch.
This was also our first real look at something Acadia is famous for: the pink granite. Even in the rain, these rocks have the distinct rosy hue that makes the coastline here stand out.
The pink granite you see all over Acadia is called Cadillac mountain granite. It was formed over 420 million years ago.
This granite is unique to this area, and it's one of the reasons Acadia's cliffs look so different from other coastal parks. Even in cloudy weather, the color really pops. After all that hiking, it was time for a little break, and there's no better place to relax than Bar Harbor.
Bar Harbor isn't just a gateway to Acadia, it's a destination in its own right. The harbor is stunning. Downtown is packed with unique shops, and we had some of the best seafood in all of New England here.
With all the lakes, ponds, and miles of coastline in Acadia, you'd think swimming would be easy. But in reality, there are only a few places where it's actually allowed.
Most of Acadia's lakes are protected as public drinking water sources, which means no swimming or wading. That's why you won't see people jumping into places like Eagle Lake or Jordan Pond.
But don't worry, there are a few spots where you can cool off. Sand Beach is the park's most famous swimming spot, but the water is freezing even in the middle of the summer.
Echo Lake is another great option. It's warmer, calmer, and a favorite for families. But if you want something more off the beaten path, there's Lake Wood.
We found this amazing swimming hole at Lake Wood and we're totally by ourselves. This was one of our favorite moments in Acadia, and we highly recommend checking out this lesser known area.
Ready for one last jump?
Ready.
3, 2, 1.
You come up all crazy.
As always, follow leave no trace principles when visiting these natural areas. That means packing out every single thing you bring in.
That reflection is crazy pretty.
Beautiful. One of the best things about hiking in Acadia is that many of the trails overlap, giving you tons of options to create your own adventure. Today, we're doing exactly that, piecing together a route that includes some of the park's most famous trails and a bit of a detour.
We started with the Bubbles, 2 rounded, dome-shaped mountains on the northern side of Jordan Pond.
Today we're hiking the Bubbles and Penobscot Mountain. There's a lot of trails out here. You can combine them, make different loops. So that's what we're doing. Where's the Bubble?
It's behind the tree.
South Bubble is definitely the more famous of the two.
That's because South Bubble is home to Bubble Rock, a massive boulder that looks like it's barely clinging to the edge of a cliff. It was actually dropped here by an ancient glacier, and geologists say it was carried from miles away. It's one of the most recognizable landmarks in the park.
And down we go. This little ladder thing makes this hike difficult. I feel like there are little hurdles I gotta jump over every time.
Before tackling Penobscot, we made our way down to Jordan Pond.
This is Jordan Lake, right?
Yeah.
And you can't swim in here
No,
because it's a water source?
the water source.
Huh.
You can kayak on it.
Jordan Pond is one of Acadia's most iconic spots, famous for its crystal clear water and views of the Bubbles.
It's also home to the historic Jordan Pond House, which is a must visit, but make sure you have reservations if you want to try the famous popovers there.
This part of the trail goes straight up. We are combining Bubbles and Penobscot Mountain. This is the Penobscot Mountain portion. More up. Whew. And still up.
Compared to Beehive or Precipice, there aren't any ladders or rungs here, just classic Acadia hiking with endless climbing and open rock faces all the way up.
All right, Acadia with your real mountains.
This place is incredible. Look at this. That's the harbor behind us. We're almost at the summit of Penobscot. Gorgeous. I made it to the top of Penobscot. We've peaked.
Perfect. From here, we decided to take a little detour to Acadia's second highest peak. This part of the hike was quieter and more remote, with a lot more elevation than we originally planned.
Made it to Sargent Mountain, our last peak of the day. Wow. That's beautiful.
At about 1,400 feet, Sargent Mountain is one of the highest points in Acadia. From here, we had views in every direction, over Jordan Pond and across the Atlantic.
And down we go.
All in all, this loop ended up being about 7 miles with around 1,800 feet of elevation gain, and we felt every bit of it by the end.
We were just up there. That's Penobscot. That's Sargent. Now we're back down here at Jordan.
You won't find this particular loop on any trail guide, but that's what made it so fun. The trails here connect in so many different ways that it's easy to customize your own route. Just be prepared for some extra elevation if you start making last-minute detours.
After spending the last couple of days on the eastern side of Acadia, we set out to explore the western side of Mount Desert Island. Our first stop, Echo Lake, to see what we had missed.
Echo Lake is one of the few places in Acadia where you can actually swim. It's calm, scenic, and surrounded by mountains, which makes it a popular alternative to Sand Beach. But after swimming at Lake Wood, we weren't as impressed.
Oh, the lake was better.
I think our lake was better too. Next up, dinner. We stopped at Charlotte's legendary Lobster Pound, a place known for making headlines.
A few years ago, the owner experimented with a unique way of cooking lobsters, getting them high on marijuana first.
The idea was to make the process more humane, and it made international news.
Whether or not it worked, one thing's for sure, the lobster here was incredible.
This is one of the most iconic spots in Acadia, Bass Harbor Head Lighthouse. We made it just in time for sunset, and we weren't the only ones.
If you're planning to come here for sunset, just be ready for a crowd. Or better yet, get here early, stake out a spot, and enjoy the show.
Today we're exploring the Northeast Harbor and Sargent Drive. And Jonathan forgot his sunglasses.
It's bright.
But first we're getting a snack at Milk and Honey. Very exciting. Success. Got some rhubarb lemonade, brownie. Jonathan's got a cookie. Some honey lemon iced tea.
Basically a Penny Arnold palm wine.
Is it good?
It's delicious.
I made rhubarb lemonade. It tastes exactly how it
How's that?
sounds.
Rhubarb?
You should try it. It's like, it's really good.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, really.
Oh, that's sour.
Oh, it's so tart.
It's so tart.
In all the right ways. It's so good.
In the center of Mount Desert Island, Sargent Drive winds along the eastern edge of Somme Sound.
Somme Sound is the only fjord on the east coast, carved by glaciers and stretching 5 miles into the island. Its steep cliffs and deep waters make it a prime spot for boating.
We saw everything from casual cruisers to full-on sailboat races. It was awesome to watch from shore.
If you're looking for a scenic drive with epic views, this is a must. We actually liked it way more than Bass Harbor.
When Derek's parents arrived, we kicked things off with a drive along Park Loop Road, Acadia's scenic 27-mile route that hits all the park's major highlights.
Our first stop was Sand Beach, a rare stretch of sandy shoreline on this mostly rocky coast.
Next up, Thunder Hole. When the waves hit just right, they rush into this narrow inlet and explode with a sound like distant thunder.
What do you think, Dan?
Measure high tide.
It says 2 hours before high tide is when this is best.
Oh yeah, I get about
2 hours before?
2 hours before high tide is like the golden hour. I'm not sure when it is.
high tide. Low tide today was at 8.
As you can see, it's one of Acadia's most popular spots.
It is better, yeah.
Wow.
You'll find lots of areas to park along the coast, so you can walk Acadia's pink cliffs and experience these incredible coastal views.
Next, we cruised past Otter Cove, a peaceful little inlet tucked between the headlands, and wrapped up the day at Eagle Lake, Acadia's largest freshwater lake. It's framed by mountains and bordered by the park's historic carriage roads, perfect for a bike ride or a relaxing hike. The next morning, we explored Bar Island, a tidal island accessible from downtown Bar Harbor via a natural land bridge during low tide. Just make sure to check the tide charts. The bar is only exposed for about 3 hours, 1.5 hours before and after low tide.
The outer trail was practically empty and gave us amazing views of Bar Harbor and the nearby Porcupine Islands.
We started on a clear trail that wrapped around the island, but the trail kind of disappeared after a while. Derek might have tortured his parents a bit by leading them all the way around the island, but they were troopers. Later that evening, we had reservations for a family dinner at the Jordan Pond House, but first, we took the 3-mile loop trail around Jordan Pond.
Hello?
Hello.
We're at Jordan Lake today. We're doing the Jordan Pond Loop.
It started out easy enough on the eastern side of the pond, but once we hit the western shore, the trail turned into a rocky mess.
I didn't know it was like this on this side. No one's trying to kill you.
Navigating those boulders turned into an unexpected adventure, but we eventually made it to this narrow boardwalk that led us back just in time for dinner.
That was the loose one.
Sorry, Mom.
And trust us, those popovers at Jordan Pond House were totally worth it.
Good morning from Cadillac Mountain at sunrise.
One of the must-do things in Acadia is watching the sunrise from Cadillac Mountain. It's one of the first places in the US to see the sunrise during certain parts of the year.
Sunrise was at 5:30 a.m., which meant we had to wake up at 3:30 to make it to the summit in time. While the early wake-up call was rough, we lucked out with the beautiful sunrise. It was amazing how much we could see from up here, and we lost count of all the islands out in the distance. It was a perfect way for Derek's parents to say goodbye to the park.
After a much-needed nap, we were ready to explore a lesser-known and off-the-beaten-path section of Acadia, Schoodic Peninsula. So, most of Acadia is on Mount Desert Island, which is the main island, the largest part. But there's also a section of the park on Schoodic Peninsula, which is like northeast, further up along the coast. That's where we're going today. It's like an hour drive. We're not really planning on doing any crazy trails. We're just going to drive along the coast and see what it looks like. It's supposed to be beautiful for sunset. That's the plan.
The first spot you'll hit when entering the peninsula is Frazer Point, which overlooks Winter Harbor.
So what do you think of Frazer Point?
It's pretty.
It's pretty. It's very quiet compared to anywhere else in Acadia.
We'd have been this alone. Wow.
That's true. If you're here for an extended period of time and you have like a few hours one day to dedicate, a really cool quiet section. It's just as pretty as the Mount Desert Island area. We're headed to the Raven's Nest.
We think.
We think. I don't know, we found a path. Looks kind of close on Google Maps. There's no internet, so we can't really be sure. Oh wow, this is beautiful. Oh my God. This is incredible. You know we're gonna walk out there, right? Like, how would you not? Oh wow, this is cool too. I'm not running. Oh wow. It is like Oregon. Oh wow. This is spectacular. I will say this is completely unexpected. Look at this area here. This looks just like the Oregon coast.
Watch your footing.
I am.
It's a very easy fall. Good fall.
It is, yeah, I'm like crouching here. Wow. Wait until you see the other side. I would argue this is prettier than what's on the mainland. And there's no people sitting all on the rocks.
This is Maine's coast, though.
This is gorgeous. Really, really pretty. I mean, you must have known it was gonna happen, right?
Schoodic Point.
Okay. You keep snacking. I'll go show them what it looks like. That's gorgeous. Look at that. Head off the road. There are people. But it's not as busy as like Bass Harbor Light. That was crazy busy in a much smaller area. There's plenty of room here. And honestly, this is easier to walk on than Bass Harbor Head. But there is no lighthouse here. Just a really beautiful sunset.
To get a different perspective of Schoodic Peninsula, we made our way over to Grindstone Point, located outside the park. It's the perfect spot for drone footage, with wide open views of Maine's rugged coastline, offshore islands, and the endless Atlantic stretching out beyond.
So today we're headed to Hadlock Falls, and we're on one of several famous carriage roads within the park. I don't know, it's a road that they used to put a horse and carriage on. There's a whole bunch of them. You can ride bicycles around them now. We're walking because it's like a shortcut.
It's fast.
Carriage road. It's really just a gravel road. We found it. It doesn't really compare to the pictures because it's barely flowing. But that's the waterfall here in Acadia.
headed up to Beech Mountain, Double E, for sunset. It's apparently a great place to watch a sunset that isn't Cadillac Mountain, because that's the most popular place, because you can just drive there and watch it. Here, it's not a bad trail. It's a little like 1.5 mile loop. It's only 400 feet elevation gain, something like that. Not bad. We're at 300 feet. And up we go. We've made it. It's the only fire tower in all of Acadia National Park here at the summit of Beech Mountain. Beech with 2 E's. This is facing east. Let's see if we can find the actual sunset. Some very rickety structure right here. We found it. It is absolutely beautiful.
Beech Mountain is an awesome spot for sunset. You get these wide open views over Long Pond, and a view that stretches all the way to the horizon.
It's way quieter than Cadillac, and the hike's pretty quick. It was a perfect way to wrap up our day.
After 2 incredible weeks exploring Acadia, it's easy to see why this national park is one of the most visited in the country. From epic sunrises on Cadillac Mountain to hidden swimming holes, Acadia really has it all.
We spent this leg of our journey with friends and family, which made it even more special. But our summer in Maine isn't over just yet.
In our next and final installment of our Maine series, we're heading up to Baxter State Park, Maine's crown jewel, to take on Mount Katahdin.
This one's a wild ride, and you won't want to miss it. So hit those like and subscribe buttons, and we'll see you next time.